Hi everyone and welcome back to another Korean lesson from Korean Studio. My name is Kim Gi-hwan. Now in today's lesson, we're going to focus on a very important aspect of Korean pronunciation, which is linking sound. And in Korean, linking sound is probably one thing that's going to make your Korean sound very natural and also much more understandable to the other person listening to your Korean. And linking sound happens in Korean when the 받침, the final consonant of a word or syllable, is followed by another syllable that begins with 이응. And in that pattern, the sound of the 받침 links with the following syllable. And to give you an example, the verb to find in Korean is 찾다. And in this verb, the stem 찾 ends in a 지읒 final consonant. And to make this verb into a polite form in present tense, we add 아요 and make this verb, which is pronounced 찾아요, 찾아요. So when we say this word, the sound of the 지읒 links with the following syllable as the following syllable begins with 이응. So it's 찾아요, 찾아요. Now, we're not going to cover every consonant in Korean, but in this lesson, we're going to focus on a set of consonants that are pronounced in the same way, and they are unreleased 디귿 sound consonant. So these 6 consonants are all pronounced in the same way as a 디귿 when they're used as a final consonant. So these consonants are 디귿, 티읕, 지읒, 치읒, 시옷, and 쌍시옷. Depending on how you've learned about these, you may have learned these as a T sound final consonant, which is fine. I think that may help you to sort of understand the sound of the consonant. But in Korean, we regard them as the 디귿 sound, unreleased 디귿 sound final consonants. And the reason why we say unreleased 디귿 is that the sound stops at the point of release and the sound isn't released. So if you think of English words, English syllables where the syllable ends with a consonant. So let's say, for example, the word bag. The sound of the G sound is released a little bit and you hear it a little bit. So you say bag, bag, right? So you hear that. But in Korean, the consonant sound stops and doesn't release. And so therefore we call it unreleased 디귿 sound. But they do release when the following syllable begins with 이응, and we'll come to that in a minute. Okay, so let's first take a look at some examples that use one of these consonants as a 받침, final consonant, and you'll hear how the 받침 consonant is pronounced as an unreleased 디귿 sound. So these are 솥, 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 꽃, 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 맛, 맛, 맛. So as you heard, you don't release the sound of the consonant, it just stops. A little bit like the glottal T, ut. So they are 솥, 꽃, 맛. Now, that's how the final consonant is pronounced. And how they link with the following syllable that begins with 이응 depends on the word that follows. So there are 2 specific patterns to this. And the first pattern is the really common pattern. So if these consonants are followed by either a particle or a suffix, usually a verb suffix, a verb ending, then the sound of the consonant will link with the following syllable. So if we look at some examples, we have this phrase, as you see on the screen, 꽃이 피다, 꽃이 피다. And this phrase kind of became quite popular with Squid Game. If you recall, they played this game called 무궁화 꽃이 피었습니다. So that's saying 꽃이 피다 means flower blooms or flower blossoms. And if we focus on the first part, we'll forget about the verb for now. So 꽃 ends in a 치읓 final consonant, 받침, and it's followed by the subject marking particle 이. And because we have 이, the particle, the sound of 치읓 links with that syllable. So we say 꽃이, 꽃이, right? And then the other key example is if the final consonant is followed by a suffix or verb ending. So if we go back to that example of the verb to find, the present tense polite form is 찾아요. But when we read this, we read it as 찾아요, 찾아요. So the suffix 아요 begins with the 이응 consonant. So therefore, the sound of the 지읒 받침 links with the following syllable. So we say 찾아요, 찾아요. To give you some more examples, here we have the word 솥, meaning a pot, like a traditional Korean style pot. And then we have the particle 에. So because it's a particle, the sound of the teeth links with the following syllable. So we say 솥에, 솥에. And another really common adjective is when the word 있어요, which we use for various sort of situations to talk about existence of things. And this is pronounced 있어요, 있어요. So that's the main pattern. So that's the most common pattern, where if the 받침 is followed by either a particle or a verb or an adjective, the suffix, then the sound of the final consonant links with the following syllable. Now, the other pattern is the less common pattern, but still it's relatively common in that you occasionally hear it in Korean. And this is when the 받침, the final consonant, is followed by either a noun or a verb or an adjective, right? Not a suffix, but the entire verb or an adjective. And when the 받침, one of the 6 consonants for unreleased 티귿 sound 받침, is followed by a noun or a verb or an adjective, then the sound of the 티귿 sound, the unreleased 티귿 sound, links with the following syllable. It's not the sound of the consonant, but it's the 티귿 sound that links with the following syllable. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. So this is a phrase where we have 꽃, noun, and the word 안, meaning inside. So when we say these two words together, we mean like inside the flower, in the flower. Maybe you're looking at the flower, maybe there's a bee in the flower. Then how would we read these two words together? Is it 꽃찬? No, this is read 꼬단, 꼬단. So when the 받침 치읓 is followed by a noun or a verb, then it's the 티귿 sound, unreleased 티귿 sound, that links with the following syllable. So this is read 꼬단, 꼬단. And then let's say, to give you a few more examples, if the word 솥 with a 티읕 final consonant is followed by the adjective 있어요, which we use to talk about the existence of things, then we would say, because it's the whole adjective, not a suffix, we would say 솥 있어요, 솥 있어요, 솥 있어요. So it's the sound of 티귿 that links with the following syllable that begins with the 이응, because it's the whole adjective or a verb. Let's take a look at 2 more examples. Here we have this phrase 첫 and I. 첫 means first and I means child. So we use this phrase to refer to our first child. If you have multiple children, first child. And this is, again, because the 받침 시옷 is followed by a noun that begins with 이응, we read this, or we pronounce it as 첫아이, 첫아이. So it's not 처사이, it's 첫아이, 첫아이. And to give you another example, the word for debt in Korean is 빚, 빚. Obviously a hot topic these days with the rise of cost of living. But let's say you didn't have, or you don't have debt. You want to tell people, I don't have debt. Then you can say 없어요. 없어요 meaning don't have. Now 없어요 begins with 이응, and it's the whole word. Instead of just a suffix, it's the whole adjective. And because 없어요 begins with 이응, we would pronounce this as 빚 없어요. 빚 없어요. 저는 빚 없어요. I don't have debt. 저는 빚 없어요. So the 지읒 받침, the final consonant, that sound, it doesn't get linked. It's actually the sound of 티귿 that links with the following syllable, because the following word is the whole adjective 없어요. Okay, so that's the overview of how the unreleased 티귿 sound, the consonants that make up the unreleased 티귿 sound, can link with the following syllable. And it all depends on what kind of word follows these 6 consonants that are regarded as unreleased 티귿 sound. And this sort of same pattern also applies to unreleased 기역 and unreleased 비읍 sound. And we'll cover them in another video maybe next week, if this is something that you're interested in watching again. But yeah, one thing I would say about the patterns that we've covered in today's lesson is that I think it's more about raising awareness rather than like trying to apply these rules as you read Korean, because I don't think it's something that you can really apply, because it is a slightly complicated set of rules. But definitely having this awareness is quite important, because you will come across patterns where these linking sound is inconsistent. And so when you do come across these inconsistencies, then you can sort of think back to the time when you watch this video and go, that's probably the reason why it's not 처사이, but it's 처다이, 처다이. Okay, so that's it for today, and I will see you soon again. Bye-bye.